Let's take a look at the importance of interpersonal skills. Incorporating organizational behavior principles into the workplace can yield many important organizational outcomes. Developing managers' interpersonal skills helps organizations attract and keep high performing employees, which is important because outstanding employees are always in short supply and costly to replace. Strong associations exist between the quality of workplace relationships and employee job satisfaction, stress, and turnover. Additional research suggests that positive work relationships help employees to flourish, leading to improvements in job satisfaction, positive emotions at work, and perceptions that one's work has meaning. Increasing OB elements in organizations can foster social responsibility awareness. This is especially important because there's a growing need for understanding the means and outcomes of corporate social responsibility. We understand that in today's competitive and demanding workplace, managers can't succeed on their technical skills alone. They also have to exhibit good people skills. Let's begin by briefly defining the terms manager and organization. First, the most notable characteristic of managers is that they get things done through other people. A manager is an individual who achieves goals through others. They make decisions, allocate resources, and direct the activities of others to attain goals. Managers are sometimes called administrators, especially in nonprofit organizations. They do their work in an organization. By this definition, manufacturing and service firms are organizations, and so are schools, hospitals, churches, military units, nonprofits, police departments, and local, state, and federal government agencies. More than ever, new hires and other employees are placed into management positions without sufficient management training or informed experience. The more you can learn about people and how to manage them, the better prepared you'll be to be the right management candidate. OB will help you get there. Let's start by identifying a manager's primary activities. The work of managers can be categorized into 4 different activities: planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. The planning function encompasses defining an organization's goals, establishing overall strategy, and developing a comprehensive set of plans to integrate and coordinate activities. When managers engage in designing their work unit's structure, they're organizing. This includes determining what tasks are to be done, who is to do them, who reports to whom, and where decisions are to be made. When managers motivate employees, direct their activities, select the most effective communication channels, or resolve conflict, they're engaging in leading. To ensure that activities are going as they should, management must monitor the organization's performance and compare it with previously set goals. This monitoring, comparing, and potential correcting is the controlling function. Henry Mintzberg undertook a careful study of executives to determine what they did. On the basis of his observations, Mintzberg concluded that managers perform 10 different, highly interrelated roles or sets of behavior, thus serving a critical function in organizations. These 10 roles are primarily 1. Interpersonal, 2. Informational, and 3. Decisional. Although much has changed in the world of work since Mintzberg developed his model, research indicates the roles have changed very little. All managers are required to perform duties that are ceremonial and symbolic in nature. For instance, when a president of a college hands out diplomas at commencement. Another key interpersonal role all managers have is a leadership role. This role includes hiring, training, motivating, and disciplining employees. To some degree, all managers collect information from outside organizations and institutions. This is the monitor role. In addition, managers perform a spokesperson role when they represent the organization to outsiders. Managers also act as a conduit to transmit information to organizational members. This is the disseminator role. Mintzberg identified 4 roles that requiring making choices. In the entrepreneurial role, managers initiate and oversee new projects that will improve organizational performance. As disturbance handlers, managers take corrective action in response to unforeseen problems. As resource allocators, managers are responsible for allocating human, physical, and monetary resources. Finally, managers perform a negotiator role in which they discuss issues and bargain with other units. Another way to consider what managers do is to look at the skills they need to achieve their goals. Researchers have identified a number of skills that differentiate effective from ineffective managers. Each of these skills is important, and all are needed to become a well-rounded and effective manager. Technical skills encompass the ability to apply specialized knowledge or expertise. All jobs require some specialized expertise, and many people develop their technical skills on the job. The ability to understand, communicate with, motivate, and support other people, both individually and in groups, defines human skills. Conceptual skills, like decision making, require managers to identify problems, develop alternative solutions to correct those problems, evaluate those alternative solutions, and select the best one. The abilities to integrate new ideas with existing processes and to innovate on the job are also critical. The average manager spent 42% of their time in traditional management activities, 29% communicating, 20% in human resource management, and 19% in networking. The time and effort that individual managers spent on those activities varies a great deal. Among managers who were successful, networking made the largest relative contribution to success, and human resource management activities made the least relative contribution. Among effective managers, defined in terms of quantity and quality of their performance and the satisfaction and commitment of their employees, communication made the largest relative contribution and networking the least. This research offers important insights. Successful, in terms of promotion, managers most often are opposite in terms of the emphasis to traditional management, communication, human resource management, and networking, as do effective managers. This finding challenges the historical assumption that promotions are based on performance, and it illustrates the importance of networking and political skills in getting ahead in organizations. OB is a field of study focusing on three determinants of behavior in organizations: individuals, groups, and structure. OB applies to knowledge gained to make organizations work more effectively. To sum up our definition, OB is the study of what people do in an organization and the way their behavior affects the organization's performance. It examines behavior in the context of job satisfaction, turnover, performance, and management. Whether you're explicitly thought about it before or not, you've been reading people almost all of your life by watching their actions and interpreting what you see, or by trying to predict what people might do under different conditions. The casual approach to reading others can often lead to erroneous predictions. Underlying the systemic approach in this course is the belief that behavior is not random. Rather, we can identify fundamental consistencies underlying the behavior of all individuals and modify them to reflect individual differences. These fundamental characteristics are very important because they allow predictability. Behavior is generally predictable, and the systemic study of behavior is a way to make reasonably accurate predictions. Systematic study means looking at relationships, causes and effects, and basing our conclusions on evidence. Evidence-based management complements systemic study by basing managerial decisions on the best available scientific evidence. A manager might pose a question, search for the best available evidence, and apply the relevant information to the question or case in hand. Most manager decisions are not made this way. Systematic study and EBM add to intuition, or those gut feelings about what makes others tick. Of course, the things you've come to believe in an unsystematic way are not necessarily incorrect. Relying on intuition is made worse because we tend to overestimate the accuracy of what we think we know. Surveys of human resource managers have also shown that many managers hold so-called common sense opinions regarding effective management that have been flatly refuted by empirical evidence. We find a similar problem in chasing the business and popular media for management wisdom. The business press tends today to be dominated by fads. Data has been used to evaluate behavior since at least 1749. Big data, the extensive use of statistical compilation and analysis, didn't become possible until computers were sophisticated enough to store and manipulate large amounts of information. Gradually, online retailers began to track and act on information about customer preferences that was uniquely available through the internet shopping experience. The reasons for data analytics include predicting any event, from a book purchase to a spacesuit malfunction, detecting how much risk is incurred at any time, and preventing catastrophes, large and small. Naturally, big data has been used by technology companies like Google and Facebook, who rely on advertising dollars for revenue and thus need to predict user behavior. Insurance firms predict and assess risk in order to set customer premiums, as another example. While accessibility to data increases organizations' ability to predict human behavioral trends, the use of big data for understanding, helping, and managing people is relatively new but holds promise. We must keep in mind that big data will always be limited in predicting behavior, curtailing risk, and preventing catastrophes. Management is more than the sum of data. In dealing with people, leaders often rely on hunches, and sometimes the outcomes are excellent. At other times, human tendencies get in the way. Use evidence as much as possible to inform your intuition and experience. That's the promise of organizational behavior. Management by walking around is an organizational principle made famous in the 1980s. Years of research indicate that effective management practices are not built around management by walking around. But the idea of requiring managers at all levels of the organization to wander around their departments to observe, converse, and hear from employees continues to be a common business practice. While management by walking around sounds helpful, its limitations suggest that modern practices focusing on building trust and relationships are more effective for management. Limitations include available hours, focus, and application. Managers are charged with planning, organizing, coordinating, and controlling. Yet even CEOs report spending 53% of their average 55-hour work week in time-wasting meetings. Management by walking around turns management focus towards the concerns of employees. This is good, but only to a degree. High-level leaders also need to be thinking strategically, proactively, and longer term. The principle behind management by walking around is that more managers know their employees, the more effective those managers will be as a result. This is not always true. We need objective data to make the most effective management decisions. Based on the need for managers to dedicate their efforts to administering and growing the business, and given the proven effectiveness of objective performance measures, it seems the time for management by walking around is gone. Yet there still is one caveat. Managers should know their employees well. OB is an applied behavioral science built on contributions from a number of behavioral disciplines. Psychology's contributions have been principally at the individual or micro level of analysis, while other disciplines have contributed to our understanding of macro concepts such as group process and organization. Contributors to the knowledge of OB are learning theorists, personality theorists, counseling psychologists, and most important, industrial and organizational psychologists. Early industrial and organizational psychologists studied the problems of fatigue, boredom, and other working conditions that could impede efficient work performance. More recently, their contributions have expanded to include learning, leadership effectiveness, job satisfaction, decision-making processes, performance appraisal, selection techniques, and job stress. Social psychology blends concepts from both psychology and sociology to focus on people's influence on one another. Social psychologists also contribute to understanding attitudes, identifying communication patterns, and building trust. While psychology focuses on the individual, sociology studies people in relation to other social environment or culture. Sociologists have studied organizational culture, structure, communications, power, and conflict. Anthropology is the study of societies to learn about human beings and their activities. Anthropologists help us to understand differences in fundamental values, attitudes, and behavior among people. Much of our current understanding of organizational culture is the result of the work of these anthropologists. Human beings are complex, and few, if any, universal principles explain organizational behavior. Because we're not alike, our ability to make sweeping generalizations about ourselves is limited. Two people often act very differently in the same situation, and the same person's behavior changes in different situations. That doesn't mean, of course, that we can't offer reasonably accurate explanations of human behavior to make valid predictions. It does mean that OB concepts must reflect situational or contingency conditions. Contingency variables are factors that moderate the relationship between two or more variables. The science of OB was developed by applying general concepts to a particular situation, person, or group. Often, we'll find both general effects, money does have the ability to motivate most of us, and contingencies, some of us are motivated by money more than others, and some situations are more about money than others. We'll best understand OB when we realize how both often guide behavior. Organizations are no longer constrained by national borders. The world has become a global village. In the process, the manager's job has changed. Effective managers anticipate and adapt their approaches to global issues. You are increasingly likely to find yourself transferred to your employer's operating division or subsidiary in another country. To be effective, you'll need to understand everything you can about the new location's culture and workforce. To work effectively with people from different cultures, you need to understand how their culture and background have shaped them and how to adapt your management style to fit any difference. To be effective, managers need to know cultural norms of the workforce for each country where they do business. Managers also need to be cognizant of the differences in regulations for competitors in that country. The workforce has always adapted to variations in socioeconomic conditions and other changes. People adapt to survive, and OB studies the way those adaptations affect individuals' behavior. As students of OB, we can investigate what factors lead employees to make various choices and how their experiences affect their perceptions of workplaces. This understanding can help us predict organizational outcomes. Longevity and birth rates have also changed the dynamic in organizations. Global longevity rates have increased, while birth rates are decreasing for many developed countries, trends that indicate a lasting shift towards an older workforce. OB research can help explain what this means for attitudes, organizational culture, leadership, structure, and communication. Socioeconomic shifts have a profound effect on workforce demographics. The use of assessments help people understand who they are. These assessments help people understand themselves and how to understand others. This allows all of us to shift our perspective and adapt our behavior. The result is an environment where people, teams, and the organization can be their best. One of the most important challenges for organizations is workforce diversity, a trend by which organizations are becoming more heterogeneous in terms of employees' gender, age, race, ethnicity, and other characteristics. Managing this diversity is a global concern. Diversity presents great opportunities and poses challenging questions for managers and employees. How can we leverage differences within groups for competitive advantage? Should we treat all employees alike? Should we recognize individual and cultural differences? What are the legal requirements in each country? Does increasing diversity even matter? Service employees include sales clerks, nurses, financial planners, and flight attendants. The shared characteristics of these types of jobs is a substantial interaction with an organization's customers. OB can help managers increase the success of these customer interactions by showing how employee attitudes and behavior influence customer satisfaction. Management needs to create a customer-responsive culture. OB can provide considerable guidance in helping managers create such cultures, in which employees establish rapport with customers, put customers at ease, show genuine interest, and are sensitive to a customer's individual situation. Many organizations have failed because their employees failed to please customers. Organizational experts must gain insights into specific people skills you can use on the job. We need to learn ways to design motivating jobs, techniques for improving your own management skills, and how to create more effective teams. These people skills are at the core of organizational behavior. Networked organizations allow people to work together even though they may be far apart. Independent contractors can telecommute via computer and change employers as the demand for their services changes. Software programmers, graphic designers, systems analysts, technical workers, photo researchers, books and media editors, and medical transcribers are just a few examples of people who can work from home or other non-office locations. The manager's job is different in a networked organization. Motivating and leading people and making collaborative decisions online require different techniques than when individuals are physically present in a single location. As more employees do their jobs by linking to others through networks, managers must develop new skills. OB can provide valuable insights into how to hone those managerial skills. Social media in the business world is here to stay. Despite its pervasiveness, many organizations continue to struggle with employees' use of social media in the workplace. Social media is a difficult issue for today's managers, presenting both a challenge and an opportunity for OB. For instance, how much should HR look into a candidate's social media presence? Once employees are on the job, many organizations have policies about assessing social media at work, when, where, and for what purposes. But what about the impact of social media on employee well-being? Managers are trying to increase employee satisfaction and enhance positive organizational outcomes. One of the biggest challenges to maintaining employee well-being is the new virtual workplace. While communication technology allows many technical and professional employees to do their work at home or on the beach in Tahiti, it also means that they feel like they're not part of a team. Another challenge is that organizations are asking employees to put in longer hours. According to one study, 1 in 4 employees show signs of burnout, and 2 in 3 report high stress levels and fatigue. Employee well-being is challenged by heavy outside commitments. Millions of single-parent employees and employees with dependent parents face significant challenges in balancing work and family responsibilities. As a result of their increased responsibilities in and out of the workplace, employees want jobs that give them flexibility in their work schedules so they can better manage work-life conflict. Organizations that don't help their employees achieve work-life balance will find it increasingly difficult to attract and retain the most capable and motivated individuals. The field of OB offers a number of suggestions to help employees deal with work-life conflicts. A real growth area in OB research is positive organizational scholarship. Researchers in this area say too much of OB research and management practice has been targeted towards identifying what's wrong with organizations and their employees. In response, they try to study what's good about them. Some key topics in positive OB research are engagement, hope, optimism, and resilience. Researchers hope to help practitioners create positive work environments for employees. Positive organizational scholars have studied a concept called reflected best self by asking employees to think about when they were at their personal best in order to understand how to exploit their strengths. The idea is that we all have things at which we're usually good, yet we focus too often on addressing our limitations and rarely think about how to exploit our strengths. Organizational scholarship challenges researchers to look at OB through a new lens and pushes organizations to exploit employee strengths rather than dwell on their limitations. Organizations have started to employ culture officers to shape and preserve the company's personality. In an organizational world characterized by cutbacks, expectations of increasing productivity, and tough competition, it's not surprising many employees feel pressured to cut corners, break rules, and engage in other questionable practices. They increasingly face ethical dilemmas in which they're required to identify right and wrong conduct. What constitutes good ethical behavior has never been clearly defined, and in recent years, the line differentiating right from wrong has blurred. We see people all around us engaging in unethical practices. Determining the ethically correct way to behave is especially difficult for both managers and employees in a global economy because different cultures have different perspectives on certain ethical issues. Today's manager must create an ethically healthy climate for employees in which they can do their work productively with minimal ambiguity about right and wrong behavior. Companies that promote a strong ethical mission, encourage employees to behave with integrity, and provide strong leadership can influence employees to behave ethically. Classroom training sessions in ethics has also proven helpful in increasing awareness. A model is an abstraction of reality, a simplified representation of some real-world phenomenon. Here's a skeleton of an OB model. It provides three types of variables: inputs, processes, and outcomes, and three levels of analysis: individual, group, and organizational. The model illustrates that inputs lead to processes which lead to outcomes. Outcomes can influence inputs in the future, which highlights the broad-reaching effect that OB initiatives can have on an organization's future. Inputs are variables like personality, group structure, and organizational culture that lead to processes. These variables set the stage for what will occur in an organization later. Processes are actions that individuals, groups, and organizations engage in as a result of inputs and that lead to certain outcomes. At the individual level, processes include emotions and moods, motivation, perception, and decision making. At the group level, they include communication, leadership, power, and politics, and conflict as well as negotiation. At the organizational level, processes include human resource management and change practices. Outcomes are the key variables that you want to explain or predict and that are affected by other variables. Scholars have emphasized individual level outcomes, such as attitudes and stress, task performance, and citizenship behavior. At the group level, cohesion and functioning are dependent variables. At the organizational level, we look at overall productivity and survival. The highest level of analysis in OB is the organization as a whole. The survival of an organization depends on how well it fits with its environment.